overall concept of development and like how we're going to look at it throughout the course. And it says that the main motive of international cooperation and development should be the progress and welfare of the people, and that cooperation and its strategies should thus aim at human development.
Mm-hmm. We had some readings this time, and we had intercultural communication too, I remember. We had a cultural difference being on time, remember you? We had another reading of Kirby, and Kirby introduced in Latin America. Kirby tried to present that Latin America is not something homogeneous. There are very several differences between countries, etc., etc., etc. And now, my question is, how you see this several perspective in relation with development, in relation to your presentation.
How I see the fact that Latin America isn't homogeneous in relation to development.
How you answer this question?
I guess just the fact that there's still like a lot of different areas that are like lacking, and we talked a lot about like the disparities between the upper and lower classes in Latin America, and that like a lot of the Latin American countries have these issues, and that that's something that development, or that Latin America really needs to work on as far as its development, because that's like one of the main problems is the difference between the upper and lower class in Latin America.
Yeah, and remember maybe that we have in Latin America differences in the countries. Very easy. I remember we did see, for example, in relation to population, density of population, with the geography of the countries. These very easy conditions are important in this in regard to your presentation.
Do you want me to keep going? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it talks about human development as conditions for human life, liberty, and like other main human rights, which are outlined in many international laws, such as the Charter of the United Nations. And so from that, we can assume that all conditions that promote life, liberty, and development will enrich the societies and the international system. And so that, therefore, the promotion of human development is related to political life, institutions, and political culture. And because of this, states and societies with more participation in common issues allow the people to be better integrated and have more possibilities to make responsible decisions as far as like what's best for their citizens. The previously mentioned concepts are especially important in Latin America, where life conditions for the majority are precarious and they live with insecurity and violence on a daily basis. And we talked about how like a lot of countries, even though they have like constitutional principles and like good frames for development, the conditions for development and human security of their people aren't that good in actuality, and that in many countries poverty, social exclusion, and inequality still persist. A lot of this is because the public institutions don't function properly, and because of expanding corruption, people don't have trust in their government, and also there's still a lot of violence. And then just that because of like the political practices in the region, there's still a high degree of uncertainty as far as like when these problems will be resolved and how exactly to resolve them. The next section of this reading was conceptually talking about like what is the model and different terms or different ways of thinking about development. And the reading defined a model as an archetype or point of reference to imitate or reproduce. And basically, then it goes through like a bunch of different meanings of development. I'm not really going to go through them all right now, but they're like all on the thing that I put on Blackboard. And so basically, it's just the fact that like philosophy, natural sciences, social sciences, biology, like they all have different ways of looking at development and like defining development. It outlines the reading outlines 3 essential factors for development, which are the process of development in individuals, groups, or societies is an expression of an endogenous process where several factors and internal dynamics operate. The process of development is not only an adaptation to external models, but that like the internal dynamics of the society are also very important.
I'm very sorry, only one interruption, that the principle, the main message in this part of the text, maybe to highlight, is that there are many assumptions about development, and we believed, or in a discussion of politics, the people believe that development has to do only with political systems, for example, but they don't recognize that many assumptions came from other points of view, other approach to development, and because of there are discussion, there are several points of view, and that is important to understand.
You mean several points of view of development, reasons for development, or types of development, like human development, social development, as opposed to political development?
Both. Yeah, both. But the discussion. It is necessary to have an interdisciplinary discussion to understand the development and to find indicators which represent really this very rich complexity. That is what I mean.
So the last factor is that participation is a necessary condition for the process to begin and take place. The last section of this reading talks about Latin America more specifically, and it says that the problem of development and underdevelopment has been discussed in Latin America for several decades, but since it's such a complex problem, there's not an easy solution. And it talks about how the countries are all very diverse, yet they share a common colonial heritage, similar experiences of modernization, and similar difficulties to reach stable economic and political orders. And because of that, it's impossible to determine one model of development for Latin America. And then some important questions this section outlined as far as like the rest of the course were: which models have an impact in Latin America? How do these impacts appear and spread? What were the strategies of development, and what were the consequences we can see from that?
Then we come to the, thank you so much. We go to